This is a 15-minute chart of the last couple days of price action in the ES. I have the Cosmo indicator on the bottom, but I'm not looking at that here in the video. I'm going to talk about utilizing angles, and I'm going to incorporate some of the key angles that are going to give very important time and price relationships and really give the geometry of what's happening in the market. These are not static numbers. I'm using numbers that the market is throwing off, and I usually do this by plotting these angles from significant pivots once they're formed. So I'm going to start to run a few angles off of the key points, and generally going to be looking for running these off the highs and lows of the intraday charts. I'm going to look at the high and low of the day. If I get a high out of hours, I may look at that out of the regular session hours. Like here I have a high right after the 1800 open the other day from the 19th. So I'm going to start from that point. So my first plot is basically a 1x2, but it's not a true 1x2 in the sense that I'm not basing these angles off of 45-degree 1x1. I'm using a specific custom number to create these angles. This would be the equivalent of the 1x2 angle. And generally, when you get the correct angles in the market, the first time that they're hit is often going to give you a reaction. And if they're breached initially, when you get the comeback to it, it's going to be a key angle of support or resistance. It's going to flip the market in the other direction. In this case, you can see the first time that was hit right here on the 215 bar, it did flip the market back down, but only for 1 bar. Then it was broken, and then when it came back and touched that angle again, we got a good upward move early in the morning yesterday. And then even later on, that angle will still come into play, but not as reliable as the first time or two that they're hit. You can see over in this area here, we went up and down and back through 3 times, but then again, it became a key point right here. So after we've hit the first time or two, I will generally have to get some other price and time projections if I'm going to take any more trigger points off of that angle. Let's go to the next level down utilizing the same information. This would be the equivalent of the 1x4, and that's the upper angle. The one that I just added here, you can see what happened there. We did breach, and then it became support and got a couple of good support bumps to the upside off of that. And then it was breached and then regained, and then this whole downward move basically ran at the pitch of that angle, and that angle was still effective here, 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 and here as a support resistance angle going down. Now I'm going to take that to one more level. Now my top angle that I've added here would basically be the equivalent of a 1x8 angle, and you can see that that one capped the market going forward for the day yesterday and also for today. That angle was hit and it rejected the price action here, 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 and here. So that angle rejected the price action 4 times, and that was basically the equivalent of the 1/8 angle. Now, coming off the initial low early in the morning yesterday, we could run this angle, same concept as the downward angles. And what happened the first time that angle was hit right here, it rejected, and then that move up basically ran along the pitch of that angle till it hit this point where those angles crossed. And that was key rejection point for that market right at the open yesterday of the day session. And that resistance point capped that little bit of an upward move there, and then the market really cranked down after that. So that's the first angle that I could plot here off of this low that was in the price action. This is the next angle, one level down. First time it was hit, it kicked the market back up. Also at the point where the angles crossed. Where the angles crossed are going to almost always give you pivot points, like this one here and this one here. And now where we crossed the two angles here, that was at the point of this high. Now I'm moving to the low, yesterday's low, and the angle that I've plotted is the actual 1/1. And you can see the first time that angle was hit, we got a good rejection off of that. And then we also had the angle cross, which also helped to stiffen up that support point. Now I'll go to the 1/2. Adding the 1/2 here, you can see the first time that was approached, it was breached. And when these angles are breached the first time, when the price action comes back, it will almost always kick the market back down, which it did right here, and it fired it back to the next angle down there, which off of our angle from that top. Now I'll take that another level. Now this angle would be the equivalent of the 1/4. What happened first time the angle was hit, rejected the market came up to the downward angle, which became resistance, fired it back down. We got one close below that upward angle, but quickly reversed and regained that. Then it held again over here, and then you can see how the price action kind of got bracketed in between these two angles as we close today. So I'll generally use what the market is telling me rather than the static angles of 45 degrees and the typical Gann fan. The custom angles are much more effective to use than those are. Now, I don't have to scale charts with this because the angle tool does the math and is self-scaling when I do this and plot these points. Now, with each new important high and low that's formed, you can create and run more angles. But now we're kind of trading inside this low and this high, so there was really no reason to draw any further angles today, even though I could have drawn angles from here, here, or here off of the intraday action today. I'm not going to go any farther with that, but there's plenty of food for thought here in this video. I'm not going to tell you how I do these angles. This is from the hidden phi work, and it's really easy to do this. There are master angles, And then there are custom angles. These are custom angles based off what the market is telling me.